Plagiarism is to steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own, or to use another's production without crediting the source.
Royalty-free music. Some companies offer truly royalty-free music which is not registered with any performance rights organization, also known as royalty collection agencies. These companies license music to their customers on a non-exclusive basis where it can be used in perpetuity without any usage reporting.
In photography and the illustration industry, it refers to a copyright license where the user has the right to use the picture without many restrictions based on one-time payment to the licensor. The user can therefore use the image in several projects without having to purchase any additional licenses. Royalty-free licenses cannot be given on an exclusive basis. In stock photography, royalty-free is one of the common licenses, sometimes contrasted with rights-managed licenses, and often employed in subscription-based or microstock photography business models.
Music can be safely used in a presentation and not violate the Digital Millennium Copyright Act simply by using royalty-free music or by adhering to all the rules and laws in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
The research question is whether or not working full-time has an effect on someone's ability to go to school full-time. Based off of our data, there is no significant connection between attending school full-time and working full-time.
Our data was obtained by handing out surveys to a random sample of 63 people, and it was analyzed by using a Pearson's chi-square test.
We wanted to test whether or not working full-time would affect a person's ability to go to school full-time. This research question is important to us because, as students, we are often required to juggle school and work at the same time, as well as being expected to perform well in both.
The null hypothesis is that there is no connection between attending school full-time and being able to work full-time. The alternative hypothesis is that there is a connection between attending school full-time and being able to work full-time. Our response variable is working full-time. Our explanatory variable is going to school full-time.
Alright, so we're here at the track and we're going to try to get a few surveys filled out. Excuse me? Could I get you to fill out this survey? It's about full-time school and working. Sure. Thank you.
The first question is just, do you work full-time?
Yes, I do.
And do you go to school full-time?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
No problem.
Here are some pictures of all 63 of the surveys. Sometimes we just verbally asked people the questions and then recorded it on their survey slips, and sometimes we actually had them do the checks and mark them off themselves. But these are all 63 that we went through and counted and made our calculations based off of. We used the Pearson's chi-square test because it allowed us to cross-classify working full-time and attending school full-time, which helped us compare all of the data that we observed.
Assumptions. We used a random sample. X is normal. We had a sufficient size. Our observations were independent from one another.
To our knowledge, we did not violate any of the statistical assumptions for our chi-square test. We tested at the significance level of alpha equals 0.05, which is 5%. Please take a moment to read the following information, which we use to help explain how we reached our conclusion.
To make our results as easy as possible to understand, we've created this chart for the class to follow along. Here we have a Pearson's chi-square test of independence. To get our expected values, we take the row totals times the column totals and divide by the grand total. After we get our expected values, which are the numbers in parentheses, beneath the observed values, we can now make a contribution table. Now we move on to the contribution table. To solve this, we take the observed values minus the expected and square that number and then divide again by the expected value. These are called contributions. After we total the contributions up, we now have our stat. We then compare the stat to the critical value and make our appropriate decision, which in this case was a failure to reject the null hypothesis.
According to our results, the appropriate decision is to fail to reject the null hypothesis at the 5% significance level, which would also lead us to fail at the 1% significance level.
Conclusion. According to our data, working full-time does not explain some of the variability of a student's ability to go to school full-time. Our results indicate that a type 2 error is possible because we are failing to reject the null hypothesis. More people than we assumed maintain a full-time job while going to school full-time, so it is possible to handle.
The work contained in our presentation is completely original, except where quoted, cited, or, in the case of music or photographic images, is royalty-free.